Good day. I am Ginaline K. Adria, Bachelor of Elementary Education students at North Shatun campus. So for today, we will tackle about historical foundation of curriculum, the development of education in the Philippines from pre-Spanish to present times. Now let's see this timeline first. Before 1521, education before the coming of Spaniards, and 1521 to 1896, education during the Spanish regime, and 1896 to 1899, education during the Philippine Revolution, 1898 to 1935, education during the American occupation, 1935 to 1941, education during the Philippine Commonwealth, 1941 to 1944, education during the Japanese occupation, 1944 to 1946, education after the World War II, 1946 to the present times, education under the Philippine Republic. According researches published in the historical foundation of the Philippine curriculum, it is said that development of the curriculum in the history of the Philippines depends on 5 motives: religion, political, utilitarian, mass education, and excellence in education. Now, let's move to pre-Spanish era. Education is informal, oral, practical, and hands-on. Reverence and adoration to Anitus and Bathalas, and the first alphabet, which is Alibata alphabet. The main goal was to encourage respect for the roles, traditions, and authorities represented by parents and elders, as well as reverence for and devotion of Bathala. When the Spaniards arrived in the Philippines, they found islanders who could read and write. Next, we have Spanish era. The curriculum created focus on their vision of 3 Rs: reading, writing, and religion. Schools were managed by the convents and religious organizations. The church in general, the main reading materials were all religion-based. Education during the Spanish regime. The friars established parochial schools linked with the churches to teach catechism to the natives. Instructions was in the dialect. Goal is to spread Christianity. Religion. Christian doctrine was a compulsory subject of all levels. Education was managed, supervised, and controlled and the friars. Education in the country was not uniform. The system of schooling was not hierarchical nor structured. Thus, there were no grade levels. The major problems faced during the period is absence of systematic government supervision of the schools, overemphasis in religion, limited and irrelevant curriculum, lack of teachers, 150 teachers missionaries to instruct over 500,000 inhabitants, lack of funds, instructional materials, and in many instances, schoolhouses. Subjects based on the Royal Decree of 1863. Languages like Latin, Spanish, grammar and literature, elementary Greek, French, and English. In history, universal and Spanish. In mathematics, we have arithmetic, algebra, trigonometry, and geometry. And philosophy, we have rhetoric, logic, and ethics. Geography. Now let's move to Philippine Revolution. Ilustrados spearhead the propaganda movements. Curricular reforms. First is secularization of education. Second is instruction of Spanish. Third, curriculum is greater attention to natural science. And fourth is the design of a relevant curriculum. Fifth, we have improvement of higher centers of learning. And the last one, sixth, we have improvement of educational system. Jose Rizal criticized unequivocally the friars' method of instruction in his 2 novels, Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo. First criticism is disproportionate focus in religion. Second, we have discouraged the attempt of Filipino students to speak in Spanish. And third, lack of pedagogical skills. And fourth, we have irrelevant courses in the curriculum. To improve the existing curriculum, Rizal considered the following subjects as required courses in secondary schools. We have science, math, history, philosophy, law, language, PE, religion, music, and social science. Now let's move to American era. Curriculum was based on American traditions and hierarchy. English now became the medium of instructions also in this era. The primary curriculum prescribed by the Americans to the Filipinos were the body training and the mental training. Body training includes singing, drawing, and physical education. Mental training, on the other hand, includes English, nature study, and arithmetic. Elementary subjects have civics and geography as subjects, while the intermediate curriculum has arithmetic, geography, science, plant life, physiology, and sanitation. American occupation. The Americans used education as a vehicle for its program benevolent assimilation. American soldiers were the first teacher, restore damaged schoolhouses, build new ones, and conduct classes. They trained teachers to replace soldiers. Filipinos warmly received their new teacher, Thomasites, and American teacher infused their students the spirit of democracy and process as well as fair play. Let's take note that it is not unexpected that the American democratic ideas, whether sincere or not, touch a nerve with the Filipino psyche. Now let's move to Philippine Commonwealth. All schools should develop moral character, personal discipline, civic conscience, and vocational efficiency, and promote effective participation of the citizens in the processes of a democratic society. Educational Act of 1940 meet the increasing demand for public instruction and at the same time comply with the constitutional mandate on public education. Now let's move to Japanese regime. 6 basic principles of Japanese education. We have the first one, realization of new order and promote friendly relations between Japan and the Philippines to the farthest extent. Second, we have foster a new Filipino culture base. Third, endeavor to elevate the morals of people, giving up overemphasis of materialism. Fourth, we have diffusion of the Japanese language in the Philippines. Fifth, we have promotion of vocational course. Sixth, we have to inspire people with the spirit of love never. Let's take note that Spanish reigned for 300 years, American 50 years, Japanese about 4 years here in the Philippines. This makes it unsurprising that despite the measures they had put in place, the Japanese were unable to persuade the people to change their beliefs and attitudes in order to realize their vision of the new order. The brutalities which were widely documented and which the Filipinos did not endure the same extent during the American time, which brought about the Japanese occupation, were one of the contributing factors. Now, during education, after 1940, the objective of the Philippine education was to establish integrated nationalistic and democracy. Inspired educational system include the following. First, we have inculcate moral and spiritual values inspired by an abiding faith in God. Second, to develop an enlightened, patriotic, useful, and upright citizenry in a democratic society. Third, conservation of the national resources. And fourth, perpetuation of our desirable values. Fifth, promote the science, arts, and letters. Now let's move to 1986, from 1986 to the present. The Philippines Constitution of 1987 reaffirmed the bilingual policy in education. EDCOM in 1994, Congress passed Republic Act in 7722 and Republic Act 7796, establishing the Commission on Higher Education and the Technical Education and Skills Development Authority. Thus, the department responsible for overseeing basic education was renamed the Department of Education in 2001, or DepEd. We have here the 2010s and the K-12 program. The second decade of the 21st century saw a significant development in the Philippine educational system. The new K-12 educational system and new curriculum for all public schools across the country were both put into place by the Department of Education